Glamping is all the rage recently. Lots of people are interested in the incredible amount of money that you can make on Airbnb and short-term rental platforms with unique glamping style properties, whether it's geodesic domes, tree houses, yurts, all kinds of unique properties perform really well. And not to spoil any surprises, but they can bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars per year on short-term rental sites like Airbnb. So in this video, I'm going to jump onto Airdna with you, which for any of you that don't know, Airdna is a site that has data on exactly how well these types of properties do perform. And we're going to look at some of the best performing unique short-term rental properties throughout the United States of America and see just how well they perform and try to answer the question of which types of properties tend to perform the best. Is it the domes? Is it the yurts? Is it the tree houses? So if you are interested in glamping or any kind of unique properties, unique stays, then you can get some guidance on which one might be the best direction to go. Now, if you're interested in more videos like this that explore other parts of the world outside of just the United States, or that look at other top performing properties, let me know in the comment section down below, or drop a like on this video to show me that you like this kind of content. It's a little bit different from stuff I normally do, but I find it really, really interesting to be able to jump in here and look at some of these really, really cool properties and see just how well they perform. So let's jump right into it and let's start looking at some really cool properties. So right off the bat here, I'm filtering for the United States, all listings that are unique style properties. So this is a variety of different properties, not just yurts, A-frames, geodesic domes, that kind of thing. You can see here, there's an entire island that does about $645,000 in revenue in the last year. There's a castle estate, which I'm going to dive into a little bit further. And this place did $1.4 million in revenue over the last year, which is truly crazy. And then there's some really, really cool luxury lodges and larger properties. But we're mostly going to be diving into today is some of those really, really unique stays. So let's jump into the first one here. Honestly, just for fun more than anything, I wanted to jump into this Castle House Estate. Apparently it was featured on HGTV. It did $1.4 million in revenue. And I just think that that deserves a little bit of a look through to see what it is they're doing so well. So you can see this is truly a compound. Like this is unlike anything else you could ever imagine on Airbnb. And we can even go and pull up the Airbnb listing, but this is really the kind of place that you would rent for a party, for a big event. It's really a venue more so than an accommodation. And you can see that it's just so incredibly unique and different from anything you would get anywhere else. But needless to say, this property really outperformed what you could ever even imagine. Now, the cool thing is it actually does have, you can see some kind of domes and tents and yurts, stuff like that on the property. So it is technically unique accommodations. I can absolutely see how it's classified as unique. And the sleeping accommodations don't look like they're anything all that crazy. You can see just a yurt with a bed in it. It's pretty straightforward, but you can tell they put a lot into really marketing this place. Here they've got a container home, and I'd imagine the whole place books out as one great big huge compound a lot of the time. And so that's just something that's going to be really hard to find anything like it if you are in the market for a big event venue that can accommodate this many people and you want something unique. So they pretty much, I would imagine, have free reign to charge just about anything they want as far as their actual nightly rate is concerned. So that's a really cool property to start things off. Let's start looking at some, dare I say, more modest properties than this, although they're not really modest, as you'll see here. So this is a geodesic dome. It's actually 8,000 square feet though. So I wanted to start here to show what's possible with a geodesic dome, but don't worry, I've got some more geodesic domes in the rest of the video here that I'm going to highlight for you guys that are more in line with what you would probably expect when you think geodesic dome. Now, I will admit myself that I didn't really have any concept of geodesic domes being able to be something like this, where you can actually have a full-on, full-size structure, because everything that I've been exposed to in the geodesic dome world, as I'm sure is pretty similar for you, has been a somewhat temporary structure, the kind of thing that you ship in and it's kind of a kit piece, you build it up. I've actually got one of those at one of my properties and it performs really well. But this is very unique and cool. And If we can get through here, you can see it's in a great location, close to the water, surrounded by nature. So really, really cool property. Now, this property did annual revenue over the last year of $226,000. So again, it's a little bit tough to really compare this to any other type of geodesic dome because of the fact that it's a 6-bedroom, 4.5 bath, sleeps 16 people. And really lots of properties that are that large could pull these kinds of numbers. And no doubt the unique factor of it being a dome does help it, but I would say not nearly as much as just the sheer size of the property. So if we jump over and now let's look at something. So here's the actual listing on Airbnb. Now let's jump over and look at something a little bit more reasonable, a little bit more actually modest. Now we can jump into the actual Airbnb listing for this one as well. So this one, as you can see, if we jump back here, this one did $251,000 in revenue. So still over $250,000. And when we look at it, it really genuinely is just a yurt. Now, granted, it's a large yurt and it is a yurt in an incredible location. And I think that's something that people have to bear in mind is that with properties like these, if you have really cool, unique properties, they can perform incredibly well and they can give you a really good return on your investment. I'd be very, very interested to see the return on investment on a property like this. I imagine that for this property doing as well as it is, it would be absolutely phenomenal. However, that doesn't mean that just because you get a unique property and you plop it anywhere that it's going to perform well. Ultimately, a lot of the unique properties have a few kind of disadvantages that other properties don't have, and you have to be aware of that, and you have to make sure that you have a strategy for overcoming those disadvantages. Namely, the fact that most unique properties, not this one necessarily, this one is still has the ability to accommodate 8 guests, but a lot of them are relatively small. So you have to be mindful of that. You have to make sure that you get a property that's going to be able to still entice people to come and stay and pay a really high nightly rate, even though it is small. And a lot of the time they're also in more remote locations. Funny enough, I can't remember the exact reason why, but I've actually looked at this property before and they've done a really, really good job with the listing overall. They've got lots of really great amenities, things for people to do. You can see the billiard table. You can see they've got the fireplace. You see they've got the hot tub outside. They've got a nice kind of home theater set up here. And they've done a really good job with the photography. They've got games. They've got all kinds of stuff for people to do. So in addition to it being a very unique place to stay, it also is just a really, really great, well done, well designed short-term rental property. You can see they've really put a lot of effort into making it a place that has lots of things for people to do when they come out and stay here. You're not just going to sit around and look at the view forever. So naturally having things like they've got archery here, they've got games to play, they've got a surround sound kind of movie theater type of setup, they've got a hot tub, they've got the incredible views. There's really just no shortage of things for people to do here. And although it is a slightly more kind of cramped, you don't have quite as much space. It's a little bit more of a unique setup inside that isn't necessarily a great thing. They really, really play well to that by giving a lot of other reasons why you might choose to stay here. In addition to it just being obviously a gorgeous property in a gorgeous location. So you can see how easily people could justify coming and staying here, even though they might not have the full private bedroom that they would otherwise have because of the unique shape of the yurt, things like that. So really, really cool property. And again, this one's doing about $250,000. Are you a brand new or experienced Airbnb host, co-host, or investor who wants to host as successfully, as profitably, and with as much fun as possible? If so, then I would love to invite you to check out BNB Tribe, linked in the description down below this video. It's our exclusive community for Airbnb hosts, investors, and co-hosts from all over the world, where I share some of my best trainings that go into detail on every single aspect of Airbnb hosting from A to Z. We've got advanced training playbooks that will help you to use more advanced strategies to take things to the next level and make more money and have more fun hosting, co-hosting, or investing on Airbnb. You're also going to get access to an incredible community and over $2,500 worth of deals, perks, discounts, bonuses that I've negotiated with other vendors in the short-term rental industry. So if you want access to all of that and a whole bunch more, check out the link in the description down below for BNB Tribe, and I would love to see you on the inside. Let's look at another property here. This is a set of 3 geodesic domes that are also tree houses. So Think about that. This is someone who has now taken geodesic domes and tree houses and combined them into the same kind of thing. And so again, the theme here is uniqueness. You can see that the more unique the stay, the more there is to experience, the more you're going to actually be booking for the experience rather than just the place to stay, the better these properties tend to perform. So you can see right off the bat that this property is going to do really, really well because the cover photo, like I already want to stay here, not even showing the property, right? This is just to come and stay. Who doesn't want to go and hang out in like a spider web in the treetops? Like that's already such a cool and unique experience that a lot of people would book just for that, let alone the fact that you get to stay in geodesic dome tree houses. So very, very cool here. You can see they've got a whole little network here. So again, this is a really, really great way. And I'm not trying to say that no matter what, that you have to make sure that your unique properties have a higher number of people they can accommodate, but it absolutely does help. And so one way to do that is by doing what these guys have done and booking out a set or a series of properties all as one, as opposed to just one dome per person. Because now you can attract larger groups of couples. You don't have to worry as much about people in one dome getting along well with people in another dome. You can just book all three out. And it also gives you flexibility. It's not like you have to book them all out at the same time to one big group. You can book them out individually, but it's nice to have the option for either. And you can see they've done extensive work of really, really setting this up. Now, the nice thing here as well is if you do decide to book it out like this, then you can have certain amenities only be in one of the domes. So for example, having a bathroom or having a little kitchen area, those things don't need to be in every single dome if you're not going to have people sleeping or have people just booking one of the domes. They're going to book the entire series. Then as long as they have access to that in one of the properties or one of the kind of accommodations, then you're going to be good. So this is actually, I think, a really, really smart way to set it up, to be cost effective, to be incredibly unique, to obviously be just so different from anything else out there, that they're kind of putting themselves in a league entirely of their own. Now, I personally have never heard of Campton, Kentucky. I couldn't imagine it's that incredible of a short-term rental market with all that much going for it. But yet these people are able to generate over $250,000 on this set of properties here. So super, super cool, really, really interesting, unique place to stay. Now let's shift gears here and start looking at some tree houses, because I found that in looking at the search results on Airdna for top performing unique properties, a lot of the properties were larger, big ranch type properties that just happen to be in the unique category. But when we're thinking about actual unique properties, the things that come to mind, tree houses, domes, yurts, campers, that kind of thing, tree houses were one of the most common things that came up time and time and time again. And I think that has a large amount to do with just how cool of an experience it is to stay in a tree house. Because again, and I've talked about this in other videos, but I'll reiterate it here, the uniqueness, the cool experience is a lot of what people are buying, more so than just a place to actually sleep. So if you think about staying in a treehouse versus staying in a yurt, it's a much cooler, more unique experience to stay in the treehouse. If you think about staying in an Airstream versus staying in an RV, it's much cooler, more unique experience to stay in a cool vintage Airstream that's been all done up, which is why in other videos we've seen that Airstream trailers that are done up really well perform way better than their more modern RV counterparts, even though the modern RV may have nicer amenities. It might even be in a slightly nicer location. It might be, an area with more demand. It's still going to be outperformed because that Airstream has that uniqueness factor. So you got to be thinking about the experience that guests are having when they stay with you, in addition to all the normal things of, the comfort of accommodation, that our people it can accommodate, all that sort of stuff. Here's a property that in annual revenue, it did just over $284,000 in the last 12 months here. So needless to say, this one's performing really, really well. Now, I will say this property looks already to be pretty extensive. This would cost as much to build as any other home, right? Yes, it is technically a treehouse by the looks of it, but it's kind of scraping by with that definition. It's more of a home that's also in the trees than anything else, I would say. So It is different. It is definitely very unique, very, very cool. It's got a lot going for it. But if you're thinking ADUs and you're thinking unique properties, I know a lot of people are thinking, I'm going to start with relatively small budget and then I'm going to get some really great cash flow from it. And this is a more permanent structure, obviously, much larger, much more extensive build. This would cost quite a bit to build, so it doesn't necessarily fall into that same category. That being said, again, a few things I want to highlight here is just like we're seeing along all these properties, and we should expect it because we are in fact looking at some of the top performing properties in the entire US, is that they all again are experiential properties. They're properties where you're going to go and you're going to watch movies. You're going to hang out on this incredible, walkout kitchen under your patio. You're going to do some barbecuing. You're going to do some lounging. You're going to play Pac-Man on the Pac-Man machine. You're going to hang out by the hot tub. There's so much to do at this property. One of the greatest ways that I can illustrate how big of an impact exactly that makes is a student of mine who has a co-hosting company came to me recently with a property that was a gorgeous brand new built property in a market where properties perform really, really well. And he had just launched it and he shared with me, well, the property is just not doing that well. And I can't really figure out why. We've got other properties in the same really similar area that are not as nice as this one, frankly. And they're performing better. They're outperforming this property. And he was looking for answers on why that was happening. And after looking at the property with him, I realized that the main thing holding this property back from being able to perform as well as the others was that there just wasn't any clear reason why I, as a guest, would want to book that property. It was a beautiful property. There was, well furnished, but there just wasn't anything to do while I was up there. The listing didn't do a good job of doing what this listing's doing, of highlighting the different attractions nearby, which in that case would have been great hiking trails, great skating, great boating, great kind of beaches for the summertime. Didn't really highlight any of that stuff. The other thing was that the listing itself didn't have a lot of things to do while you were there other than just hang out. There was no movie area. There were no games. There were no activities to do outside, really nothing to do. And so as a guest that's thinking about potentially booking there, I'm kind of stuck thinking, well, sure, I can go and just sit on the couch in a really nice place, but I can also just sit on my own couch at home. And if you think about it, with a listing like this being the exact opposite of that, you can see that when you compare it to not booking a place, you think, well, I can hang out the hot tub now. I can watch movies here. I can be outdoors. I can have so much room for all of my friends to come and hang out. And there's so much communal space. It's not just a dining room where we would all be cramped together. We can all hang out and play Pac-Man. We can go hiking. We can go to the wax museum. There's just so much stuff to do. And again, people are buying experiences. They're buying activities here. So that's why this property, a big part of why this property would perform as well as it has, achieving almost $300,000 in revenue. Now, looking again, let's check out these much more modest tree houses that still did $227,000 in revenue over the last year here. So again, these ones are in Kentucky. Maybe there's something I'm missing about Kentucky here that has these properties that are just really, really incredible. But you can see already in like the second picture here, there's an incredible cool, big, huge slide sliding down from the tree houses. I already want to stay here. It's already so unique and so cool and so interesting. These properties are far, far more rustic. So goes to show that even if you don't have a more traditionally beautiful, well-appointed, modern property. Not to say this property isn't beautiful. It's beautiful in its own right, but it just goes to show that it's not about having all the frills and the bells and whistles to get the property performing well. It really is about the experience, because this place, again, has just an incredible experience going for it. You've got the slide. Imagine going with your kids here, how much they would love it. If you've ever heard of Great Wolf Lodge, this is very reminiscent of kind of a Great Wolf Lodge type of feel. You've got the hammocks to hang out on, you've got the slides, you've got the webbing to hang around and play in, you've got the hot tub, and really it honestly looks like this listing is pretty under optimized, all things considered. It could be a lot nicer than what it is, just the listing itself to showcase this property, and still yet it's doing well over $200,000 in revenue. That goes to show that tree houses, being such a unique stay, if they're done well, can be really, really cool. Now, this one, I know it's not really practical for a lot of you guys watching. I just wanted to include it in the video because this has got to be one of the coolest Airbnb short-term rental properties I have ever come across. This is another one of those ones that I think I might have seen it featured in a magazine somewhere or highlighted on a blog or something. I know I've seen this before. This is hands down got to be the coolest property I have ever seen, ever, full stop. And you can tell that's working out well for them because this property made over $200,000 in the last year. So really, really cool. And this is a property that's over in Bonnie Doon, California. Not super familiar with the area, but if you think here, if you look at this, this is already just probably the most unique property that you could ever possibly imagine. It's called the Acorn, I think, or the Pine Cone. I'll have to double check on that. And it basically is this suspended, pine cone tree house that's suspended in the air and is fully made of glass and metal. So you can basically, it's like a geodesic dome where you can actually look out from inside of it and see everything. And it's just got to be one of the coolest things ever. You see, you've got this kind of webbing that you can come and hang out on. You really would literally feel like you're just living in a pine cone up in the air. And you can see they've got the bathroom down here, so you have a bit of privacy because obviously you probably wouldn't want to go to the bathroom up in a huge suspended pine cone. That makes a lot of sense to me. This is a good example of a property that in spite of, from what I can see here, really not having a whole lot to do in terms of activities, this property is just so incredibly unique that it really makes up for it. But bear in mind that if you're not listing a literal huge one-of-a-kind pine cone that's suspended in the air, then you really do want to make sure that your guests have things to do while they stay at the property that's going to make their stay, worthwhile, make it worth coming for them. I really do believe this property could be doing a lot better than it is if they had additional things to do around here, because looking at the biggest drawback I see with this property is just that it's just, there's not really that much to do. I'm imagining I'm in the middle of the forest. I'm going to get here. It's going to be super cool for a few hours. And then I'm going to be thinking, well, what do I actually want to do? What am I going to do here? And I think this property is so unique and so cool that I would still book it, even knowing that I'm not going to have a whole lot of stuff to do after the first couple hours. But for a lot of properties, that's not the case. So just bear that in mind. I also want to look at their calendar because I'm just so incredibly curious how easy or difficult it would be to book this place. Yeah, you can see that there's very, very sparse availability in this property. Now, if I wanted to come and stay for a weekend, they're charging $650 per night for one single bed that can accommodate 2 people. Right? Now that is incredible. That is a lot that they're charging for that property. And I'm not surprised because it's just so incredibly unique. And their reviews just incredible as well. I'd imagine lots of them. Now they actually have a 4.86, which is a bit lower than I would have expected. But I mean, I couldn't imagine people not being just blown away by this property. Now, let's jump over. So that's basically the unique properties that I wanted to show you guys here. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. You can see here that there's plenty of opportunity to be making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year with the right unique property that offers a really, really cool experience to guests and is unlike other things that they would be able to find elsewhere. And you can really set yourself into a league of your own as far as the competition is concerned by just dramatically outperforming the competition, making your stay so unique. So I want to know your guys' thoughts, if this is helpful, if you thought this is cool, if you have any other questions, comments, anything else you want to see, let me know. Let me know in the comment section down there. Now, if you're interested in learning more about Airbnb hosting, co-hosting, investing, property management, hosting your own space, and you want to be a part of a tribe, a community that is just always learning together, always supporting one another, becoming better hosts, making more money, having more fun, then check out BNB Tribe. It's going to be linked in the description down below. I highly recommend that. It's a community that is just really incredibly supportive for anyone that's looking to start with hosting, co-hosting, whatever it might be. And we've got some incredible training, all kinds of amazing tools that I've built over the last 10 years. We've got almost $2,500 now in different discounts, perks, incentives that you can get access to just by joining. And it is so wildly affordable. The whole goal here was to build something that you could pay for the entire membership tuition for an entire year with just like one booking in your calendar. So If you want to learn more about that, check it out. Links in the description down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Let me know. Hit the subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the 2 new videos you post every single week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. With all that said, thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.